All right. Welcome. Back in the saddle again. Hope everyone's doing well. There's probably a bunch of people that normally watch at Contact in the Desert right now. I had considered going. It was a little last minute, but quite honestly, I had some family obligations. And my family takes a lot of hits and makes some compromises for this show. So I decided to take one for the family team and skip Contact in the Desert. Part of the reason is I'm going to save some of that energy for the International UFO Congress in November down in Phoenix. And that'll be like a home turf convention. So I think I'm going to blow it out a little bigger there. Oh, come on. All right. Welcome. Thank you so much. It is Friday, May 31st, 2019. Last day of May. Tomorrow, June 1st. We're past Memorial Day weekend. We're into the summer season of things. I hope things are starting out well for you. And let me know what big old plans you have for the summer down below if you want to. I sure would like to be a fly on the wall at Contact in the Desert, because I'll tell you, I know CW is there and Kelly is there, and they're there together. And I know BB is there. And I know Jimmy Church is there and Richard Dolan, and I wish I was a fly on the wall to see the looks on their faces. I don't know if TW will go up and say hi to these people, or if he'll ignore them, walk by and wave, or how that's all going to go down. I on the one hand, wish I was there, but on the other hand, I just wasn't quite prepared. And I am still dedicated to taking this show on the road and doing some location stuff. And I'm going to be doing that this summer. So I'm just saving my energy for some other projects and just kind of prioritizing right now, as it were. But at any rate, thank you. It's a Friday night, and I'm so glad that you're here. And I want to start off tonight's show with just a short segment on this topic. And it's the History Channel's new show starring Luis Elizondo. You probably already know about it if you're into the UFO subject. And it's called Unidentified: Inside America's UFO Investigation. And it premieres tonight. And at what time? Let's see. I don't know. You should look it up later. Wouldn't be premiering right now at this time. No, not at all. Anyway, I got suckered in because I saw Rick Sanchez on RT on YouTube, and I'm not a huge proponent of RT. I'm not like saying that they're my preferred source for news and information over other types of mainstream media or whatever. Even though I think RT will do some reporting that a lot of American media, well, not that they're not American, but we all know that they're Russian-backed. And, I don't know. I take it all with a grain of salt. Any news that's got the backing of a government behind it, I have to, take with a grain of salt. Anyway, so Rick Sanchez, he had a story with Michelle Greenstein, I'm not quite sure. And this was on RT America. And so they had this headline saying director of Pentagon UFO program speaks out, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, what's this? And I suspected it might be Luis or something, but then it was really kind of a clickbait. And then he talked about advertising tonight's show on the History Channel. So it's only a 6-part series, which I wasn't quite sure about that. And maybe I'll do a review of it. I'll check it out and see what it has to offer. I think part of the big points of this show is the witness testimony of the pilots that were in the Tic Tac video. And the one is Lieutenant Ryan Graves. He flew an FA-18 for the Navy. And also a Lieutenant Danny Acoin, Accoin. And the incident happened in 2014. And I think the red meat of this show is going to be that these pilots give their firsthand witness testimony and identify themselves. And instead of just seeing an abstract infrared video on YouTube or whatever medium you watch it through, that now there's a face and a name to the incident and to the conversations that were going on the microphone. And so I'm curious about it myself. We'll see how it goes. I hope that it doesn't follow in the footsteps of a lot of History Channel material that just kind of leads to a lot of further speculation and proposing ideas about what if, without offering any real answers or solutions or conclusions. That shit drives me crazy. So I wonder, I wonder if TTSA took their investor money and started a production company. I guess they did, right? Maybe put this together and then they sold it to the History Channel, and that's going to be one of the revenue streams coming in for them. I don't know. I'm unclear as to how TTSA is going to pay their investors back. I'm not really privy to all that. I got lost on that topic a long time ago in terms of that. I just got tired of the drama and the kind of dripping of information that TTSA was engaging in. So we'll see. We'll see what kind of value that show has. But like I said, as you may or may not know, it's premiering on the History Channel tonight. And once again, it's called Unidentified Inside America's UFO Investigation. And I'll be interested to check that out. And I'm sure we'll talk about it. So tonight's main topic is Julian Assange. And I came across some information online, and it was really surprising to me. Of course, we've had a lot of stuff going on in the news, especially concerning the administration that has control of the White House right now, and the drama associated with that. And the media seems pretty sucked up into that topic. And once tonight's topic of Julian Assange, I'm not going to dip into politics per se. I'm just going to dip into the principles of the case. I want to get into some of the details of the case as well, because they're very interesting. If you don't know, just to kind of lead it off, Julian Assange / WikiLeaks, he was charged with computer-related crimes in 2012, and it was computer intrusion, to be specific. And they charged that Julian Assange helped Chelsea Manning gain access to classified information, which was then put out on WikiLeaks and showed misdeeds of U.S. troops in Iraq who had gunned down a group of journalists and hovered over the scene. And when first responders showed up to the scene to assist the wounded journalists, they then shot them up as well, and laughed and kind of mocked the situation, and did not show these veterans in the best possible light. Let's face it, that's a fucking war crime, so let's call it what it is. And America doesn't like to be embarrassed that way. The mainstream establishment, the deep state, call it what you will, the establishment of the government does not like it when we get called out for our shit. And as we all know, excuse me, Chelsea Manning did quite an ugly stint in military prison over this, and was pardoned by President Obama. Thank God. It's one of the good things that Obama did during his presidency. And we all know that Chelsea has been, she was doing time in jail for not talking to the Eastern District of New York about her involvement with Julian Assange, and they threw her in jail and then they let her out. And I think she was out for a week, and then they threw her back in because they can't twist her arm. And, she'd already done a stint in a federal prison for the military. So I don't know, maybe this local jail business isn't enough to shake Chelsea Manning. I would definitely love to interview her at some point, but this show is not about that. This show is about Julian Assange and whether he's in danger, and whether journalism and freedom of the press is in danger at this time. Have we hit a critical juncture? And I would just like to posit the idea that if you think that somehow withholding UFO information, UFO technology, even 0 point energy, if the details of this kind of technology, if it exists, is going to fuck your life up, let me tell you something. This attack on journalism and freedom of the press, this is going to fuck your life up even more, because you are not going to be able to find a reliable source of information. If the government doesn't like what's being said, if you get someone who's got thin skin in the White House and a giant ego, they're going to quash the truth. They're going to quash the free press. And I don't think that it's hyperbole to propose that at this juncture. I really don't. I think we stand a real chance of having freedom of speech, freedom of the press, really trampled on. And I don't know if, I suppose, elected officials who are going to follow the people that are in office right now can turn a lot of this stuff back and set everything back to where it should be in terms of checks and balances with the government. But once again, the system is kind of inherently corrupt from the inside out as well. So I don't know. It's going to take a lot of fixing. It's a complex issue with a lot of, it's very honeycombed out there. So we'll just focus in on the details of Assange and what that means and what the implications are, because I have a point at the end of this that we'll toss out as food for thought. And oh my God, I have been remiss. I didn't look in the chat room to see who's here before I get into this. And let me refresh my page. Oh, yeah. I didn't even turn down my own phone. Let me turn down myself. It's always weird to see myself on the phone as I sit here. I see Jet Petty, Alien Protocols. I was just checking you guys out. Satellite Mincy, Out of Mind. Hello, guys. How are all of you? I'll be taking a look back. So let me get into this because I did a lot of research on this, and I want to get this out. So as we may know or not, I'll just do a little bit of a refresher. Julian Assange entered the Ecuadorian embassy in 2012. And this year on April 11th, he was, and I do use this word literally, extracted from the Ecuadorian embassy once again on April 9th of this year, just last month. And at one point on May 19th, 2017 to be exact, the Swedish government dropped the charges against Julian Assange on rape. And the top prosecutor of Sweden is the person that made that announcement at the time. And part of the reason they suspended the investigation was because he had gone into the embassy and they didn't see any way that they were going to be able to address it, because it was going to run the clock out on the statute of limitations. Therefore, they just dropped it. And when he was extracted from the embassy on April 11th, boom, once again, the sealed indictment that had been actually administered in 2017 was released on that day, and in a coordinated situation. And so some of this indictment came out at the same time. And it's going to be up to the British Home Secretary to decide whether Julian Assange, after his 10-month stint for the British on jumping bail, they'll decide, the Home Department will decide whether he will go to Sweden to stand trial for rape, or whether he will be extradited to the United States, or how all that's going to play out. And so that's the high drama of the moment. And what I was surprised to find as I got into this in the media was that Julian Assange had missed a court date because he was ill. And a UN observer had gone in and examined him and spoken to him and said that they could not have a coherent conversation with him, and that he was not fit to stand trial at this time, and that his health is failing. And it literally said, the report, that there were signs of psychological torture. And I did some research into psychological torture, and there are a lot of interesting things, and I don't mean interesting in a good way. A lot of things that will happen to the human psyche when placed in isolation. And like a lot of things, it's a very individualized process. How some people react and respond to prolonged isolation will vary person to person, and how that manifests and behaviors will vary as well, as you can imagine. So he may be going, the brain physically changes during isolation when you have prolonged restrictions on behavior or movement or access to sunlight or food or whatever. Like, that's not a healthy lifestyle he could have been living. The brain physically changes. So we all know that Assange looked pretty haggard as he was extracted from the embassy. That was not a good look. Not a good look. And that's an understatement. So as I dug into the topic more, I went to Vox.com and I found an article that was published by Anna North on May 13th of this year. And it was titled "The Rape Allegations Against Julian Assange Explained." And that caught my attention because when he was first charged, I remember hearing somewhere in the media that in Sweden, simply having unprotected sex unconsensually, like you can have consensual sex with someone, but if you don't wear a condom against your partner's express permission, then that can be considered rape. It doesn't need to be the violent act of rape as we normally see it. And I'm not saying I don't agree with that. I think it's kind of I don't know. I'm not sure if I was writing the laws, and thank God I'm not sure if I wouldn't see that more as kind of a reckless endangerment kind of thing. I'm not sure that I would be willing to call unprotected sex rape. But then again, I could be persuaded to do that if someone has a great argument for that medically or psychologically. So I suppose in some ways, if you were purposely trying to impregnate someone against their will or expose them to a disease against their will, perhaps that is obviously it's a criminal act. It's weird for me because I just don't really have that categorized as rape in my head. But like I said, I'm open to information. So if you have thoughts about this, put them in the chat room here. Put them in the comments if you're watching after the fact. And so at first I thought, well, these are trumped up charges against Assange. They're saying that he had unprotected sex with some chick, and so they're going to, cook up this rape charge against him. And I thought it was kind of bogus. But as I read this Vox.com article, and I'll find a link below, you'll also find a link to the article about Luis Elizondo. As I got into the article, one of the women in the case that had brought charges against him and actually reinstated charges against Assange once he was taken out of the embassy, her name is Anna Arden. And she claims that Assange tampered with the condom, that she had consensual sex with him, but he wore a condom during one sexual encounter and then had a second encounter with her and tampered with the condom, which led to him having unprotected sex with her. So that's the basis of that charge. There's another woman, and her name is Miss W. She has some anonymity here. And she consensually hooked up with Mr. Assange and had protected sex with him the night before, but woke up in the morning and found out that Mr. Assange was having sex with her and without a condom. So she was snuggled up in bed with him, and he initiated contact and did not use protection. So this happened in Stockholm in 2010, and both interactions with both women were on he was doing some kind of a junket in Stockholm, and this was all during the same trip. So these are the allegations. And when I heard that, when I read the allegations by these two women, it made me change my opinion on, well, these are just trumped up charges. I mean, it did affect me. But then I also hold out, could these women have been paid off by some governmental agency, or are they being coerced in some other way to tell this story? Because I think that the U.S. government wants revenge against Julian Assange for exposing their misdeeds in Iraq, their war crimes. And I think they're going to try to make an example out of him. And I wonder if his life is in danger while he's in custody. I wonder if we're going to see a headline that says Julian Assange hung himself in his cell, or some other nastiness. Thank you. Wow, it's the first time I've sneezed on air. I tried so hard to suppress that. I was like, I can do this. I can do this. So, this article on Vox.com by Anna North kind of paints the picture of the details of what these two ladies are saying, and what the Swedish government is using to request the extradition of Mr. Assange to Sweden to stand trial for rape. But I found another article, believe it or not. And this was originally published in USA Today on April 11th of this year. And I found this to be very interesting. The title of the article is "Be Skeptical of Accusations Against Julian Assange and WikiLeaks." And it's a good counterpoint because it's a heavyweight person that wrote this article. His name is Patrick G. Eddington. He's a former CIA analyst, and he's a House of Representatives senior staffer. And he's a policy analyst in civil liberties at the Cato Institute. And the Cato Institute is kind of libertarian, I suppose, in their leanings. I don't think they're necessarily left or right. They're kind of pseudo-classical liberalism, libertarian. They don't endorse any political party. But the Cato Institute, I don't know. I've heard that at times it's right-leaning. But something that Patrick Eddington did in the article was bring up the 1971 Pentagon Papers that was leaked by Daniel Ellsberg. And some of the same things were happening at that time. The government flips out. They decry the release of the information. But lo and behold, what is going on? But war atrocities, war crimes happening in Vietnam, and commanders and high up brass in the Pentagon responsible for some of these misdeeds and trying to muddy the waters and obscure their crimes to keep themselves out of trouble. But fortunately, the Bill of Rights prevailed in 1971, and the Pentagon Papers were published. Obviously, that's what started all this. And Ellsberg is now someone that you can find in the media from time to time. And the courts sensibly saw the power and the necessity for journalism, free speech, free media. You're asking, how does this all tie together? Well, this has happened before. This has happened before. It was the Pentagon Papers, 1971. So here we are, back in these waters. Now, you may ask, can we believe what someone who's a former CIA analyst says? Can we believe a senior staffer from the House of Representatives to tell the truth about that? Well, he's taken that counterpoint. Don't believe all the accusations. This is a guy that knows all the dirty tricks of these people. And if this guy has been on the inside loop of our governmental dirty tricksters, maybe there's a lot of value and a lot of weight to what he's saying. Maybe there is a chance that Assange is being set up, that these are trumped up charges, no pun intended, that the situation is different than what's being portrayed. What happens to you and I in this process? We start thinking about the Me Too movement. We start thinking about the Harvey Weinsteins and, these fucking creeps who are running around. So then it's like, Julian Assange is just another creep. Well, they often use sex or sex-related types of crimes or perversions in a way to smear someone. Sex is one of the quickest ways to smear someone through an active campaign. And it's pretty effective because we all love salacious, gossipy stories that involve sex. Who doesn't? As a matter of fact, let me read. No, I'm joking. So we've got Mr. Patrick Eddington taking the other side of this, saying, don't believe everything you hear. The U.S. government has plenty of reasons to cover up their war crime. They have plenty of reasons to attack freedom of the press, and especially Mr. Drumpf, who occupies 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. This guy is driven by his ego. And here's the grand circle that I wanted to talk about tonight. Bring this all home. So while you're thinking about the story of the women, the rape is possible, and it could be that all of this is true. It could be that there's a smear campaign going on and he did, break Swedish law and technically by Swedish definition commit rape or some sexual crime against these women. I'm not saying I don't believe that. Maybe it's all true. Maybe he did act in bad faith with these women, and maybe there's a smear campaign going on. What if it's all true? Okay. What if he can be a hero and a scumbag at the same time? Let's face it, is that possible? Yes. It is possible to do good things and be a good force in the world, and also maybe personally off the clock, you're a fucking asshole. We can all imagine that. So our minds get caught up in this. Did he do it? Did he not do the rape? What does Patrick Eddington know that we don't know that he might be talking about, that he's insinuating? And while we're all caught up in the drama of crazy Julian Assange being hauled away in the van with the beard, and now he can't have a conversation, he's unfit to stand trial because of deteriorating health, whether that be psychological, physical, or both, we're all caught up in the drama. What are we not thinking about? We're not thinking about what this is really about. And you might say on the surface, well, you already said that freedom of the press, the First Amendment, that investigative journalism, and the job of investigative journalism to hold the government and the powerful accountable. Yes, that is the ideal of journalism when it's not sold out and compromised by corporate money. What is the point of this? This case should be about whether the government can use top secret classifications to conceal their own criminal conduct. And I'm going to say that again. This case should be about whether the government can use top secret classifications to bury information to systemically conceal its own criminal actions. And I'd love to take credit for that, but that comes from Mr. Patrick Eddington in his piece that he wrote for USA Today. And that really is the essence of this question that you should be asked. Yes, this is a threat to investigative journalism, free speech, freedom of the press. We do need journalism to keep local government and local people of power accountable. We are losing a lot in our society by not having a local newspaper or not being engaged in local news and reading about the city council meetings or the zoning meetings in your county or your town. Reading that shit online is pretty dry. So it's boring to begin with, and it was a lot easier back in the day to pick up a paper and kind of see some headlines and take some interest, and it was more accessible, it seemed. You got to really be genuinely, curiously engaged and interested to track down this information. But there's the question. Can the government just at their own whim classify something top secret when it's really a war crime? When it's a crime by an elected official, by an appointed official, by someone in the federal judiciary, by someone in the legislature, by someone in the executive branch? Can you just say, hey, it's top secret to cover up your own crime? Wow. That would be awesome if the average person had that ability, wouldn't it? Whether it's shoplifting, robbing a bank, or killing your ex-wife that pissed you off. And, this is top secret. Sorry, it's top secret. Sorry, can't know that. Can't prosecute me. Top secret. Say anything about this, we're going to lock your ass up. Or we're going to put you in the Ecuadorian embassy for over 7 years. Right? That's what's going to happen. That's the nut of this, kids. The U.S. government abusing its power, abusing the classification system to cover up their own crimes, misdeeds, and corruption. And I'm not coming here with this topic to tell you that I have a solution for this. If you have faith in the voting system and the integrity of the American voting system, perhaps you could say we could all vote different people into office who are going to be transparent and responsible. That's one possible response. I'm feeling kind of agnostic about my faith in the integrity and security of the American voting system. And I think I have good reason to feel that way about it, to feel ambivalent. So I'm curious as to how you feel about this. And what I'm going to do is now I'm going to go back into the chat and look for some things. Wow, there's a lot of stuff. UFO Gandalf, hey, hey, hey. The professor, of course, is in the house. There's Jiggy. Hello, Paranormal Hood. Let's see, lots of highs and hellos. Let me see if I get into someone named Kathy Ashby says, too much mainstream media attention on that UFO thing. My dirty mind leads me to feel there is nefarious reasons as to why. Nice comment. I like that. I told you. I'm so glad Alien Protocols is here, by the way. Thank you so much. I love you guys, and you're amazing. And I suggest that everyone watch Alien Protocols and like and subscribe. They have a great channel and great show. And Jet Petty, is Chelsea still locked up? Yes, she's back on her second stint. She's back in jail because she will not cooperate with the investigation of the Eastern District of New York's federal indictment against Julian Assange. Let's see, solitary satellite Mincy 4, I think case will result in no charge, but not without many years incarcerated and damage done to break him down. Yes, I think that is certainly a possibility. By the way, I have no one here. I'm home alone tonight, so I have no animal wrangler. So if you hear dogs in the background, it's not me. It's my neighbor's dog. And let's see, Out of Mind. I heard the same thing. She did a video right before her recent incarceration. If she has been let out, I must have missed it. She's still in. Satellite concerns me if Obama or Trump raise this issue. Well, you know what shocked me was this is buried in the news. I had to dig for this. CNN buried this way, way, way far down. And it was just like Assange misses court date, and there was a lot of fluff and blowing over of the actual core of the issue, which was that Julian Assange has taken a serious ding to his health, physical and psychological, and shows signs, once again, of torture or isolation. And I imagine maybe in a PTSD sense, perhaps it's all the same in terms of the damage they could do to your psyche and physiologically to your brain. Alien Protocols, we need major official government announcement. Drip drop disclosure is not... I don't know what that is. Unlike Russia and China 11 properties, this is the fabric of their culture. I'm gonna say hello, goodbye. Michelle Embry, he's a very bad date, maybe criminally so, but the U.S. doesn't care about that. No, that could be true. That must be in response to me saying, can both things be true? Michelle Embry again, if a firefighter rapes someone, you don't take safety gear away from all firefighters. Boom. Good point. Even today, Kathy Ashby says the TV news was bringing MLK rape charges Where is this leading to? Exactly. And the FBI, Mr. Hoover himself, personally wanted to smear Martin Luther King and tried to coerce him with information they had on him to alter his behavior. And they love their dirty tricks. And I'd like to thank all of the new names that I see in the chat room tonight. I'm really inspired that so many new people are here. I'm getting new subscriptions, and I like seeing this kind of interaction. And before I go tonight, I want to present, I really want you all to think about this on your own time and analyze this for yourself and come to your own conclusions. But just consider this. Once again, when we see all the hyperbole, when we see all the drama, when we see all the bullshit or lack of it, lack of coverage in the mainstream media, you're going to ask yourself, is the government abusing its power of classifying information in order to cover up its own crimes and corruption? Absolutely it is. And we have to find a way as citizens to collectively find a solution. And for me personally, that would be having some actual faith in the security and integrity of our voting system. I think that our electronic voting is hackable, and I think it's unsecure. I trust paper ballots more than I trust electronic voting machines, especially with everything that's happened during the last election. So that's the question. How can we take away the government's power to abuse classification to cover up their crimes? I think we need some legislator to come up with a great bill, perhaps when a new administration is in office, and address this situation. And so that's the food for thought. That's the nut of the issue tonight. And Julian Assange may be in bad shape, and it doesn't stop me from playing happy music now, does it? It does not. So yeah, my next planned trip is going to be the International UFO Congress this November down in Phoenix. I'll have a table. I'm going to be doing some other stuff. I'm going to do some location shoots very soon. And I'm going to talk to my friends at the Navajo Nation. I think it's about time to go make a trip out there. And so we may be showing some rare native sites. And it's possible that I may gain access to some areas that not even UFO hunters can get access to. So that's just a little tease on that. Thank you. Please like, please subscribe, please share. I'm pushing towards 500 subscribers. I'd like to get 1,000 by the end of the summer. Thank you so much for tuning in. I know that you have a lot of things you can be doing on a Friday night, especially with Contact in the Desert going on. I'm sure a lot of other people are giving reports and stuff. But you chose to spend your time with me, and I appreciate it. Thank you, everyone that showed up in the chat room. And I want everyone to have a safe night, and I will be back here tomorrow night live, Mysterious Forces Live. Thank you so much. Good night.